Hey, my name is Steve Keller, and I want to talk to you today about a super fun subject, compliance, regulatory compliance. And good news, what I'm about to share with you is actually not a restriction on your business, but actually will make your business much simpler and more successful and profitable. So a little bit about my experience. I've spent, goodness, about 30 years in the network marketing industry, mostly in products, selling some amazing stuff like we used to joke on one product, we go, it will do everything but raise the dead, and we're working on that. And so one of the things to understand about my experience is, first of all, in my first company that had wonderful products and all the science behind it, it took me 13 years of working to actually make a six-figure income. Why? Because partially I was doing it wrong, okay? So I'm going to try and save you that effort. Also, you know, in that same company, they spent a lot of money on lawyers, and they were really trying to push the limit on what they could talk about in terms of disease states. And there's one thing where, on one hand, you have the law on what you are and aren't allowed to do, and then you have government agencies and regulators interpreting that law, right? And so there can be a very big difference depending on who's in charge, right? For example, that company, I remember one day, all of a sudden the Texas Attorney General put a padlock on the front door of that company and said, we think you're breaking law. If you disagree, join us in court and we'll spend 3 years working this out, right? So you don't have a choice, you obey, right? The other thing to understand is that pharmaceutical companies, they do not play nice. They make a lot of money and they're very possessive of the money they're making. So when you start playing with their golden goose, their pile of gold, which is diseases, right? They can get pretty nasty. You know, I've seen pharmaceutical companies pay like ABC 2020 to make a hit piece on a network marketing company where they took a doctor who was saying, this product saved this girl's life, and they edited what he said in the interview to say the product didn't work at all, right? I've seen pharmaceutical companies threaten people, hospital administrators, that if they implement a certain nutritional supplement into the general protocol of the patients in that hospital, that they would pull 7 million pounds worth of grants every year, right? I mean, so we're talking about hard, like, you know, playing dirty, okay? And usually for network marketing companies, you kind of play under the radar when you're small, but when you pop maybe above $100 million a year, you kind of pop up above the radar. That makes sense. If planes fly low, the radar can't see them, but if you lose a certain altitude, all of a sudden, ting, you're on the radar, and now they're looking at you and going, ooh, are you gonna mess with the money I'm making? Are you making claims about disease states? Are you talking about how you're getting people off medication? That sort of thing. And so then you get noticed. And the big problem is it's very hard to change cultures in a company, right? So if you've started a company and we talk a lot about a lot of disease states, and we talk a lot about different clinical research and results. If in the future all of a sudden you can't do that anymore, it's very hard to change the culture in terms of how you're sharing it with everybody, right? Now, you know, we're going to have a lot of healthcare practitioners you know, involved with this because of how well it works. And so I'm not saying that you shouldn't become aware of the clinical benefits on different disease conditions on what this product will do. I am saying that it's unnecessary and even decreases your ability to get people on product the more technical you get, even if you are a healthcare practitioner. And you know, that's just me being very open and honest, right? So I want to explain a bit to you about a very simple process and a very simple philosophy, which will maybe drive this home. So I have my friend and mentor, Dr. Cheryl Townsley. At one time, she and her husband had $1 million a year naturopathic clinic in Denver, Colorado. So they're extremely successful. And she didn't take insurance, okay? And she charged like $250 an hour. So if you don't take insurance and you charge a lot of money, she's a very smart businesswoman. So she goes, I better make sure that my clients get the results they're looking for so they'll keep coming. Does that make sense? So what she would do is she'd take their little folders and then she would ask them, she would go, like, what do you want? Right? And these are people with very serious disease conditions, right? And they didn't say, I want my cancer gone. I want my colitis gone. Here's what they would actually say. They would say 4 different things over and over. They would say, you know what? I want more energy. I want better mental clarity. I want better sleep and less pain in my body, right? And for the sake of Maxilin, I would add like less distress in my digestion, okay? And very interesting, right? So they weren't talking about their disease states. They were talking about those 4 things, right? And that when you talk, here's the way to say it. Features tell, benefits sell, okay? So what people are looking for is they're looking for those benefits, right? And so if we can focus on talking about those benefits of like, look, if you take this product, you probably sleep better, more energy, clearer thinking, maybe better emotions, right? Better digestion, yay. More energy, less inflammation in your body. People are like, that's what I'm looking for. Actually, yes, I'm interested, right? If, for example, you have a friend who has a certain disease condition, right? And you, maybe you're a male professional, but most of you maybe not, right? So you as their friend start talking to them about their medical condition, right? It's not a conversation they're used to. They're like, okay, why is my friend Bob seem to be like a cancer expert now, right? This is weird, right? So it's not a conversation that they're used to. Bob is probably being quite technical, right, in his explanation. But I might say, okay, interesting. I guess since we're having a technical clinical conversation, I should convey this information to my chosen clinical partner, which would be my medical doctor, right? And understand this, no medical doctor is ever going to endorse something they don't know anything about. And even worse, many medical doctors, their first job, that their first goal in the day is not actually to help you, but not to get sued and not to lose their license, which requires them to play in a very narrow set of rules. Does that make sense? I had that experience one of helping a medical doctor and his wife with some pretty serious issues. I go, oh, well, let's tell your patients about it. He goes, no, I can't tell my patients about it, or else I could find myself in court with the lawyer saying, when treating this person, did you or did you not follow accepted standard of care? Now, accepted standard of care is a pharmaceutical drug, okay, right? And you have to say, no, I didn't, even if you thought that would be better for them, right? So there's a legal issue here as well, right? Now, if you do this very technical conversation with someone with a disease state, typically we'll go, oh, I have something to help you with your MS. They're like, well, I have a certain very particular type of MS. I want to talk to someone who's had my exact type of MS. Okay, cool. Then, well, what about the clinical research? Do you have the double-blind placebo crossover studies? Like, okay, like it's, you got complicated super fast, right? And you can't, we share information. We're not in the convincing business, okay? And if you are in the convincing business, very few people want to join you in your convincing business, right? So it destroys the ability for people to join your team going, I would like to do what you're doing. That looks fun, simple, easy. I have the time, I have the energy, and I could do it. And cool, let's have fun. But if I'm like, hey, Bob, man, I know you're dealing with something. You know, I've recently found something super simple. I'm sleeping better. I've got clearer thinking. My digestion, which was jacked up, is way better. Bob's like, oh, well, what is that? It's just simple stuff. You put it in some warm water, you drink it. Bob's like, I'll try that. Much, much simpler and more effective than talking to Bob about his disease conditions. Does that make sense? For example, my youngest daughter, she's 24, right? And, I spent 30 years in this type of business, right? So believe me, all my children have heard all the pitches on all the cool stuff, right? And my daughter, I was recently talking to her, she's in Florence, going to fashion school. And I said, Maya, I found a great new product. She goes, what is it? I go, it's a gut health product. Instantly she goes, I want it. I'm like, that's it? A gut health product? Yes, I want it. And then I told her the cool origin story, like, oh, Tsarist Russia, they found nomadic tribesmen were carrying stuff in lamb intestines, and then the Soviet military developed it. And it's super cool, and it's antibiotic resistant, and it makes it through your gut stomach acid, and it repopulates your gut. She's like, yeah. And she goes, that is the most interesting thing you've ever told me about. Okay. So again, if we go back, what are we talking to people about their benefits? Better mental clarity, better energy, better digestion, better sleep, less pain, right? That's what people are interested in. And if someone goes, well, will it help for this disease condition over here? Like, Bob, I have no idea. No idea if it will help you with that. But what I do know is when I started taking it, I felt better. I had more energy, better mental clarity, less pain, and better digestion. And I think if you started taking it, you would probably experience the same thing. And if you start sharing it, you will probably even make some money off it. It's been amazing, right? So keep it very, very simple. Keep it to the 4 benefits, right? One thing I really love doing too is not even using any words, right? There are some awesome before and after pictures with Maxilin, right? You could go, hey, you want to see a cool picture? Someone goes, well, what are you doing lately? I started a new business. What is it? Well, let me show you. Boom, picture, picture, picture. They're like, holy crap, what is that? You're going to tell you what, I don't even want to screw it up by explaining it. What's your cell phone number? Let me send you a link. And just watch a short video. I'll see if you're interested, right? And here's another thing just to make it, I'm going to tag this in on the end. Understand this. It's possible to do the business in a way that honors friendships and relationships. So we're sharing this information with people because we care about them, because it's a kind, compassionate thing to do. I'm not attached if you say yes or no. I'm attached to me doing the right thing, and me doing the right thing is not robbing you of your opportunity to make your own decision, right? So Bob, if I send you this, keep in mind, our friendship and relationships, way more important than this product or business. So if you're not interested, just tell me quickly. I just want to make sure you're aware of it, okay? So anyways, hope that helps. Now, very briefly, when you are sharing your testimonial, we don't need your medical history. Please, not a long story. It's like you can say as little as this, oh my goodness, I had crazy gut issues, right? No clinical issues. My skin was going nuts for so long. I was embarrassed to go outside. I had tried everything. Then one day, my friend Susan shared this product with me, and I'm like, man, I tried everything, but I'm like, what could one more thing hurt? I started taking it. I started feeling a little better in about 3 days. In 2 weeks, everything's really started to shift. And now my skin is beautiful. And I'm so excited. I used to be so hopeless about ever getting better. And now I'm proud of my skin. I'm excited about the future, right? So what you felt emotionally, very briefly what your situation was without any clinical issues, right? I tried everything. Then one day my friend Susan told me about something. Here's what I did. Here's how long it took. And here's how I feel emotionally about my situation now. Anyways, hope that's helpful. Good compliance is good marketing. It'll make your business simpler. More people will join your team. There you go.